This ending sucks. Let's recap what happens in the last quarter of the game. Sonic has just finished a fantastic section where he unwittingly released the big bad from an ancient seal. His friends sacrificed to save him from cyberspace corruption. Sonic and newcomer Sage must stop this galactic monster from destroying Earth. Oh, and Eggman, too, I guess. The final island is fine. It's much smaller than the other zones, which is good, since the gameplay loop was getting a bit stale by this point. There's only so many times you can jump on a random spring that takes you to a random rail that shoots you into a floating collectible after all. But that's okay. What's here is still solid and clearly just a prologue for the epic confrontation to come. Sonic gathers all but the last Chaos Emerald, which is locked behind a huge door. It requires a hacking minigame. This minigame came out of nowhere on Tails' island and is essentially a Galaga clone. I don't like it very much. It looks like a ripoff of Nier's hacking mechanic at first glance, and hacking in general doesn't suit Sonic as a character. Sounds more like a Tails thing to me, which is probably why they introduced it on his island. But I get it. It breaks up the monotony for a bit. That's harmless. We hack the door open and a small corridor leading to the final emerald is revealed. This corridor ends up being the last time you use the open zone for the rest of the game, which is a shame. Scaling these massive titans was such a good way to make you earn the right to use Supersonic, and highlighted how much Sonic needed that power to defeat them. But oh well. After acquiring the final emerald, Sonic must fight one more titan before he can fight the space monster thingy. He goes super straight away, and begins what would typically be Phase 2. Fight itself is whatever. It's got cool moments, but doesn't last long and ends up feeling hollow compared to previous Titan encounters. But I'm still cool with this. There's still a final boss that isn't a Titan to look forward to. That must be where all their focus went, right? Right? Sage takes control of the just defeated Titan and leads Sonic into space where an ominous being called the End is waiting to battle for the fate of Earth. Quick side note, the End is a weird villain. It destroys an entire civilization, but according to interviews is more like the concept of death, as it changes its form to whoever sees it. Which is why we, the players, see it as a moon, because that's a common symbol of death to people, I guess. I mean, this doesn't really matter, and it doesn't really come up in any other way in the game, so, like, the moon did not look that scary to me. I'm sorry. This is it. The last fight. The bar for this fight was raised from the very first boss of this game. Back then, I thought to myself, if they nailed the first boss so well, just imagine what the actual final boss will be like. This is gonna be epic. Yeah, it sucked. It's the hacking minigame again, except harder and nothing to do with hacking. The Titan turns into a Galaga ship while Supersonic just sits there and does nothing. Let's be clear. The final battle with Supersonic doesn't let you control Supersonic. What the hell? Now, underwhelming bosses in Sonic games are not an unlikely pairing. Even the most beloved entries in the series have final bosses that revert to a simplified form of gameplay compared to the rest of the game. These are what we would call set-piece moments today, where it's less about the mechanics or difficulty and more about experiencing a larger-than-life moment. This is why, even though, say, the Bio-Lizard in SA2 isn't that fun to fight against, it fulfills its purpose well as a catalyst for the story, characters, and music to swell to an absolute fever pitch. And it rocks. The End is essentially the worst of both worlds. It not only lacks interesting gameplay, it reuses a style of gameplay previously associated with the most boring parts of the game. The End, as a character, has only just appeared and doesn't carry much meaning beyond a giant monster for Sonic to defeat. Its anti-life rant feels derivative of games that have done this idea better, and come off as a last-minute attempt to flesh out an otherwise bland villain. Despite the focus on Sonic's friends throughout the game, it's the Sonic and Sage show from now on. Not a bad pairing on its own, but Sage doesn't do anything meaningful until after the battle's over. Unless we're technically playing as Sage during the Galaga part? But either way, Sage awakening to her own sentience and treating Eggman like a father doesn't have much to do with an eldritch space horror attacking Earth. There's no narrative crescendo to arrive at, as these two characters just don't have much of a connection to the End beyond happenstance. You can't even make this about teamwork, since Sage doesn't really work with Sonic as much as she uses him as ammunition. Oh yeah, it's so unimportant I almost forgot, but after you beat Galaga, Sage yeets Sonic at the moon in a QuickTime event that ends the fight. It's funny, you could basically cut out the Galaga phase completely and skip straight to the QTE without losing much if you really wanted to. Wouldn't that be silly, though? That's exactly what they did for normal difficulty and below. What the hell, guys? What the hell, guys? I played this game on normal difficulty because I assumed normal would be the intended experience for 99% of the players. I didn't go hard mode because I didn't want to waste time dealing with enemies that have bloated HP or take less damage. I didn't and still don't see how that would improve the game. And so on my first playthrough, for the sin of playing the game on its default difficulty, the final battle was skipped without my consent. You see, I've played games that lock content behind difficulties, and you know what? They tell you how each difficulty will affect unlockable content, so you can make a good decision. Even Kingdom Hearts knows better than to lock in-game battle content behind higher difficulties. This takes an already bad boss fight and makes it infinitely worse by erasing the fight completely, robbing the player of any catharsis even a bad boss fight could bring. The game gives zero indication there even is a fight on hard. I had to find out about it on YouTube, where it was referred to as the secret boss. Yes, the term usually used for extremely hard post-game content was just used for a fight less compelling than the Chaos Zero boss in Sonic Adventure 1. I would just like to ask, why? Would it kill you to give players extra lives for normal mode and below? I just don't get this, because this certainly isn't a time or budget problem. This is just very bad game design. Really stupid stuff. And so the game ends. The theme of the game playing if you beat hard mode. The narrative concludes quite neatly. Sequel bait is shown, and a generally entertaining video game comes to an end. But my spirit, as a Sonic fan, cannot deny the ending was a major disappointment. I originally wanted to make this a positive thing, a video that focused on the game's willingness to try new ideas and restore long-forgotten characterization of the main cast. These things made me feel proud to be a Sonic fan again, and I won't stop praising them for that. I still recommend the game too. It's just the empty feeling the ending gave me stuck around longer than I thought. Thankfully, other videos have stepped up to give Sonic Team credit for great game design, but as we all know, if your ending's bad enough, that'll be all people remember. I would be remiss not to include the fact that the dev team revealed in a post-launch interview that they were rushed for time when it came to the final battle. If you know anything about Sega and rushed Hedgehog games, this shouldn't be hard to believe. We should be grateful they managed to make something that didn't end up like Sonic 06, or Sonic Boom, or Sonic Color, or Sonic Origin, or Sonic... You get the point. This doesn't excuse the ending, but it does illuminate how a game with otherwise excellent boss fights stumbled on the most important one of all. This is when I thought I was done. When I thought all the commentary I could muster was a vague discomfort with Sega's inability to end its games well, or at least Sonic's games. Definitely got blindsided when... So not too long after the game's release, the official Sonic Twitter account tweeted an image confirming multiple free DLC waves throughout 2023. The final wave promising new story content and multiple new playable characters. This is crazy. We haven't had legit non-Sonic playable characters in ages. And the existence of post-game story means the end of the game technically won't be the last thing future generations will be left with. It doesn't fix the ending, but it does a good job at neutralizing the damage it leaves behind. Assuming what we get is even halfway decent. And then a second major event occurred in the middle of me writing this. On December 23rd, 2022, Morio Kishimoto, the director of Sonic Frontiers, praised the suggestions of fan modder Infinite Force on how he would improve the last two bosses. I'll leave a link so you can read it yourself, but he offers some excellent ideas that make the ending a lot more like what I thought it would be. Mario's response was written in Japanese, and that's great, because now I can show off my Japanese fluency and translate it for you. I'll break it down line by line so it's as clear as possible. It starts, 素晴らしいアイディアのご提案をしていただきありがとうございました。Thank you for presenting some fantastic ideas to me. すべて読ませていただき、あなたのご意見が正当なものであり、私はとっても刺激を受けました。Your critiques are valid and affected me greatly. 限られた時間でどれだけ現実的かは分かりませんが、それでもご満足していただけるものにするべく全力で頑張ります。Since we're limited by time, I don't know how much I can accomplish, but I will try my best to make the final boss into something satisfying. And really, that's the best I could hear after going through all this. The courage of this guy to actively engage with a fan to understand how to improve is admirable. I'm also really glad Infinite Force wrote his critique in good faith, without understating how bad the current end is. It's truly a Christmas miracle to see something actually productive happen on Twitter for once. In conclusion, Sonic Frontiers is a good game. The ending sucks, but I can't really hold it against the game completely. There's a strong possibility most of my complaints will be rendered null by a much improved version of the final battle somewhere down the line. It turns out all the opinions and video essays on Frontiers turned out to be for a game that wasn't done talking. It's a living piece of art, responding to the people who play it. Only once all the DLC is released will Sonic Frontiers become the truest version of itself. The thing left in history unchanged till the end of time. It's important to remember the infinitely small context these opinions hold in comparison. I hope you enjoyed my unsolicited Sonic hot takes. See ya!